Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleagues Jim Patterson and Paul Estabrooks. Jim and Paul will be today's presenters and will discuss the topic of strategic portfolio management for Enterprise Agile. This webinar is a new addition to our series of Agile webinars, so if you enjoy this video, feel free to watch the others we have available on our channel and look towards the next installment, which we'll be releasing soon. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thanks, Robert, and welcome everybody. We're excited to present this topic today, which is relevant to the current movements in the portfolio management arena and in the movements towards more agile organizations. Now, traditional project and portfolio management has taken us pretty far over the last couple of decades. We've got better handle on our projects and our intakes and maybe even resource management, and even improving the quality of our deliverables and maybe better visibility for the organization. And intended to do more strategic alignment of our projects with our portfolios of projects, strategic alignment with our projects from our business strategies. But that's one area that, hasn't realized its full potential. The Gartner group says this disconnection still persists, that strategy is not really aligned with execution well in most organizations today. And strategic portfolio management is meant to address that and make it more integrated of a process. Now, on top of that, we got organizations through this age of digital transformation trying to become more agile, or what we're calling shifting to the left here, moving away from the more traditional longer duration waterfall type of projects with big bang deliveries at the end, to more iterative types of projects with more frequent deliveries and more iterative types of approaches, so that we can be more responsive to get things and more value to the customers quicker, as well as make in-course corrections more readily through the processes. And this move, on top of the needs to get more strategic in the way we look at things, compounds the challenges that organizations find themselves in today. Now, in this, this move from traditional project portfolio management on the left, some organizations are striving to become fully agile across the organization. And even if they want to make that journey all the way over to the left, it's going to take some time, usually years, to make that culturally and just overall process and people-wise within that organization. And they're going to pass through, maybe where they have a hybrid or more of adaptive approach. And today we're going to talk about more of Enterprise Agile if you want to get there, and how the facilities are here to support you with the tool sets and OnePlan that we're going to be showing you here today. Now, in a hybrid world where you're in that transition, you might have a mix still of waterfall and agile iterative type of projects, and you may have a variety of tools that you're using for those types of things to manage and execute on those projects. And they still have to roll up to the organization through some portfolio structure. Just one sample, mechanism up there into projects which go into programs and portfolios, and maybe they're part of value streams or different strategies or strategic themes. Leadership needs to see what they need to see in the way they want to run the business. And teams need the things that they need in order to effectively execute using the methods and the tools that they have in order to effectively deliver. Now, even if organizations get completely agile across the board execution and do all things agile across the organization, challenges still exist. Portfolio visibility in the agile world is not necessarily something that's inherent with the tools you see down there like Azure DevOps and Jira. And on top of that, teams may be looking at the way they progress things and their status in different, more agile terms like burn-ups and burn-downs and velocity charts and things like that, where leadership might still want to see the language of the business, more financial oriented, and when we're going to deliver things, and we want to see dates and commitments and those types of things. And the idea is we have to bring this stuff together today, and there is mechanisms within OnePlan to do that. Now, if we're going to move to strategic portfolio management fully, the Gartner group defines that as a set of business capabilities, processes, and supporting portfolio management technology to make that happen. And the move towards more enterprise project or program management offices, they require strategic portfolio management, or SPM, to support enterprise-wide strategy to execution alignment, to make sure that what the executive suite says, the strategies and the direction of the organization is, the portfolios that we're executing on should align well to what it is the organization's trying to achieve. But on top of just saying we're going to align to these strategies, strategic portfolio management takes on a lot of other directions. It really is about, the definition of those strategies and the desired business outcomes, but then mapping those to the portfolio elements in the projects, mapping them to things like business capabilities that we want to either sustain, improve, or add to our mix, and also things like digital and physical products and applications that we will have. So there's more dimensions to it than just the projects and the strategies themselves. So a complete SPM solution must capture and define and prioritize business strategies, manage the execution of initiatives that drive the achievement of those strategies, and support the needs of the different stakeholders, and the key ones here being leadership, IT or product management, as well as the execution teams that actually have to deliver. So the Gartner Group says that to do strategic portfolio management and to be effective at it, they have to have three key attributes. One is portfolio alignment, the other one is value-driven decision-making, and the other one is ongoing portfolio flexibility so that we can be responsive. So key issues here that organizations are facing, CIOs and other executives, is how can we align key business objectives to the execution of enterprise-wide digital investments or other initiatives? And how can these portfolio leaders use strategic portfolio management to adopt strong value-driven decision-making, which is one of the key attributes of effective SPM? And then how can we use this to be or provide strategic portfolio flexibility so that we can shift priorities and assure adaptation of things and be able to adjust to market conditions and such like that using strategic portfolio management? So strategic portfolio management really drives success and helps overcome disruptions. And per the Gartner Group, it really is responding to a need for responsive funding, meaning getting our funding and our investments where they belong, commensurate to what the priorities of the organization is, and also commensurate with that, getting the right resources on the higher priority things as well. And also the need for an alternative governance model that factors in all these different dimensions that we talked about in SPM, not just the projects themselves and maybe the individual ROI of a project. And the lack of portfolio and resource management decision-making at scale broadly across an organization enterprise-wide is something that SPM is also meant to address. The other piece in being responsive is, how do we pursue opportunities? How do we respond to threats? How do we innovate while experiencing business disruptions? Because the tendency with business disruptions is to tend to hunker down and just take care of the things at hand and do some cost cutting. So how do we pursue those opportunities and make sure that the overall vision and goals of the organization are still being pursued through this? And the alignment of EPPM, meaning more of an EPMO function of PPM, making sure that that's aligned with pursuit of digital business. We talk about these days, digital transformation, and that even brick and mortar businesses are becoming more software or digital companies these days in the ways that they reach their customers. How do we further that as well as an organization to drive success? Because if we don't do that commensurately, we can quickly become irrelevant in our own marketplaces. So Gartner says that, strategic execution, which is really the execution of the strategies that are outlined, really should be integrated with your enterprise PMO and the portfolio management capabilities that are in there that you see over there in the lower right. But there's also other portfolios that we have to align with here today in integrated portfolio analysis. And this is true that we should be doing this regardless of what our delivery methods are. For example, digital projects and applications and assets may be using more agile and more DevOps types of processes. Projects and programs might be using more traditional methods, or they might be using agile methods to deliver those things. And the key here is to say today in today's webinar with enterprise agility is that even if you're an agile shop and you're pursuing more scaled agile approaches, this strategic portfolio management concept still applies to your organizations. So is this something that we're just coming up with? Well, Gartner's done a number of surveys over the year, and the current one basically is saying that SPM and shifting towards it to help enable organizational agility, there's some key projections here that by 2025, 70% of digital investments will fail to deliver the expected business outcomes due to the absence of strategic portfolio management approaches. By 2024, half of the EPMOs will have the ability to rapidly sense and orchestrate and become responsive and become kind of the central nervous system for the enterprise to help guide the direction for leadership and for the teams that are executing. And by 2024, they're projecting that 80% of digital businesses will integrate SPM and execution technologies. And by 2023, they said that 50% of portfolio offices will include sustainability metrics, which adds another dimension to this whole thing if sustainability is a strategy and a goal of an organization. So today we're going to talk about how OnePlan is and enables strategic portfolio management for you. It brings in the dimensions of strategy, execution, and technology all into an intersection that brings us strategic portfolio management as a discipline. We have the business leaders who would define and or execute on a strategy. You actually have the execution leaders that actually are responsible for the initiatives and the programs that should align with those strategies and help the organizations and the business leaders achieve those. And then we have the assets, the IT leaders that have things like applications and other things that we need to factor into this process so that we can fully look at these things and prioritize things based on all the dimensions that need to be considered. Now, you could take it simply from that piece that I said at the original slide where, even organizations aren't even aligning with strategy itself well to this date. And you might have a portfolio of projects in that lower right that is aligned to a set of strategies or objectives and key results. And that would be a step forward for organizations that aren't doing that well. And we're going to show you here today how OnePlan can accomplish that for you. But the need for strategic alignment in SPM may demand even more than that. For example, you might have a business objective or a strategy like grow revenue 15%. You might then have tangible key results that will help us gauge whether or not we're actually on track or on pace to achieve that strategy. And on top of that, those would then be maybe aligned with a business capability. In this case, we're saying order processing that we need to have in our organization, which might be supported then or aligned with different applications or products or processes that we might have in place to do that. And then we have initiatives or projects that might be enhancement projects, they might be implementation projects, they might be marketing or go-to-market types of projects that all support those things. But notice the way the interconnection here happens. These things are in reality all related. And if we're not factoring in those interrelations in the way we prioritize and choose what we're going to do next, we may be missing the boat as far as becoming our most effective and our best selves to achieve these strategies. Today, we're going to talk about how OnePlan provides the ability to not only model, but track a strategic plan and execute on that strategic plan. The ability to define those enterprise architecture dimensions, like products, like applications, like business capabilities, and be able to define those in and of themselves, and then be able to align them to a portfolio of initiatives. All of these things need to interrelate with one another and be associated with one another so that we can effectively use them in our decision making. And then be able to visualize those things. How are these things all interrelated? How are these strategies and the products and the applications and the initiatives or projects, how do they align with one another? And when we look at one, what are the threads that say, what are these things related to or dependent upon? And the ability to provide that visualization is something that OnePlan can help you with today. The key is, as organizations try to become more agile, they need to find the right balance. You can't just be completely agile in a scaled fashion without some measure of governance. But the way we govern and the way we look at the world and the way we prioritize needs to be modified from the old traditional approaches. We still have to have that right balance so that we can be agile and be responsive and deliver quickly and with quality, but also be able to be sure that we're working on the right things and that these investments are tracking the way we want to, or redirect based upon things that are succeeding or working or not. So in this world, you might have hybrid PPM solutions. That is a partially agile solution. In this case, I'm using an example where a OnePlan portfolio might be being fed by a waterfall set of planning stuff that could be coming from project or from within OnePlan itself. Could be coming from an agile tool like Azure DevOps, but feeding into a more traditional portfolio view. As we talked about, that leadership might still have traditional views and metrics that they want. You might use something like Jira for the same model. You might have an all agile approach, but your leadership may still think in terms of more traditional business metrics, and we might have to translate some of that information to more traditional portfolios up above. Or you might be fully agile and leadership has been enlightened to become more agile in their mindset as well, and they might be looking at things from a more agile perspective. And OnePlan can address that scenario as well. So with that today, Paul Estabrooks is going to give you a demonstration of how OnePlan enables all these things for organizations and how you could actually have these capabilities in your hands today. So Paul?
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to walk through, I'm actually going to use two demo environments today. This first one is more of the adaptive scenarios that Jim talked about a couple of slides ago. But I wanted to highlight those three components of that SPM solution here, as well as some integration with Azure DevOps that I think is important to see. And then I'm going to jump over to an Enterprise Agile one, and we'll look at program increments and planning in that vein. So I'm in OnePlan right now. I'm in our SPM demo environment. And you can see here, I've clicked on the particular area here where we define the strategy. And so, as Jim said in those slides, this is a big thing for organizations, is making sure that we understand and can articulate the business strategy and how it aligns with, or how our portfolio of work aligns with it, as well as how it aligns with our enterprise architecture. So step one would be to be able to define this. So if I show this really quickly, and I'm not going to dive into a ton of detail here, but I have a set of objectives, and I just expanded that list. You can see each one has a set of key results. So key results tell us if we get to the key result, then that's the accomplishment of the objective. So what I want to understand is, what am I trying to do, and how will I know when I get there? And so for business leadership, this is coming in here and saying, this is what we want to accomplish this year, and we'll know we'll have achieved it if we can achieve these key results. This is how we plan our own business, using this exact framework and using these exact tools. So we come in and understand what those are. Now, I want to be able to link things together, because that's going to give me the visibility that I need. So if I just quickly jump into one of the key results and scroll down, it's tied to a set of initiatives. So there are initiatives that are aligned with it. It's also obviously associated with the objective that it's underneath. So we're starting that effort to link all of these things together. So that's the strategy. Quickly articulated set of objectives. An objective can be, in flight or active. It can be proposed because we're planning next year and so forth. It has an owner and all the rest of it. Likewise with the key results. So now just a quick jump over to the enterprise architecture, which was that second frame that Jim showed in one of those build slides. And here's my current architecture. And this is a demo, so we've captured a few things. We've got a couple of applications in here, some capabilities. Jim walked through that slide where we talked about a capability of order processing. We want to hear order execution, very similar. And we also have some products, some things that we treat as products as an organization, and we do continuous improvement on them. So that's going to get more into the Enterprise Agile discussion a little later. So we have this is our current architecture, and obviously we're going to add things to it, we're going to expand it, we're going to update and modify this. And as Jim showed in those slides, the initiatives that we spawn based on our objectives are to modify or enhance or add to our architecture the pieces we need to enable the capabilities and the processes or the value streams, whatever the case may be in the organization, to drive that value that Gartner talks about is so important. So part of it is I need to understand it here. So if I look at this application, it too is linked to a couple of objectives. It's linked to some initiatives that are impacting it. So again, that linkage, now I'm going to view it from this side. Okay, so now I've looked at my architecture. Now I'm going to jump into my portfolio. And in this particular demo, this portfolio is very adaptive in nature. We're going to do an Enterprise Agile one in just a minute. So in here, if I expand this out, I have the conventional sort of program or portfolio program, and then projects/epic scenario underneath it. And projects and epics means I've got a combination of those waterfall projects and agile efforts that I'm doing. And then in some cases, like this particular example, I actually have both within that project. So it's hybrid inside of a hybrid environment. So it sort of takes on its own flavor of how we might go about and executing that. And that's very much the reality of what we see in a lot of our client engagements. So if I dive into this for a minute, I want to sort of highlight a few things, and then I'm going to show you a couple of things from the DevOps side. I have my standard information that I might want to capture about the project, this initiative, the business case, why would we do it, and some other data. There's this other section here called Enterprise Architecture. And when I expand that, this is where we kind of bring to life that linkage between the strategy and the architecture of the organization. This particular initiative is tied to 2 objectives. We just have created that linkage so we know that. It's tied to 3 key results, and we've split the budget accordingly so that we can start to understand total investment in achieving a key result by doing these splits. It's likewise tied to some of those applications, including the one I just had open a minute ago. And again, we've split the budget so that we have an understanding of total cost of ownership as we continue to invest in these various applications through the initiatives that we identify we need to do. And it's tied to a couple of our products. In this case, we just split it 50-50. So we've created that linkage. We know that this initiative is critical to the accomplishment of several key results, which ultimately tie back to some objectives that we have, as well as we understand how it's related to our enterprise architecture, both products and applications in this example. Could be value streams, could be other things in here, capabilities that we have in the architecture as well. So I've linked all that together. And then quickly, I just want to show a few things. One, we understand that this particular initiative has a budget, so we've captured that here as we sort of build out and sort of plan this project. It has a need for resources. So now from an execution perspective, I understand what are the resources I need. You can see there's a lot of resource conflicts here. The budget that I have that I'm going to manage to make sure that I deliver this value to the organization to help accomplish those key results and ultimately those objectives. And then I'm going to manage this project, and I want to open this up, and I'm going to look at just a portion of it today. So in here I have, this is my backlog. So this particular data, is coming from Azure DevOps. Okay, so I'm pulling this in. But what I've also done in here, and we wanted to highlight this today in this demo, is not only is the project connected in Azure DevOps, but the features are as well. And if I click on this icon, I can go and open up Azure DevOps. And I actually already had this open. And now I am at that particular feature. And I can come in here and work on that feature. I could add time and things to it. We've created this little work log capability in here. Likewise, if I jump back to that, I won't click on it, but I could also click on the user story. And I actually have the user story open. I already had it open. And it has a similar frame. So I've got the user story level, I'm at the feature level, and then finally, I'm actually at the epic level as well. If I had opened up that original connection, I can now work on this here. And so what I wanted to show you was sort of through the looking glass, if you will. Here's that same information I walked through a few minutes ago. There's all the linkages. All of that information is here. I'm in Azure DevOps. So any organization that's going heavy into an enterprise agile approach, this is the level of connectivity we can provide so that you can understand what resources are on what's the progress on those items, where are they, what sprints are they in, and so forth. And I'll get into some of that planning in just a second. But then also still manage all that other critical information, including that integration with and linkage to the strategy, which I have right here. And I'm doing this inside DevOps as opposed to doing it over in OnePlan. There's that same budget. This is all going to look identical, that same resource plan. And my goodness, I can actually even see my own work plan here, or I can pull it up in DevOps, obviously, if I wanted to. It's there as well. So all of that same information is here, and we've tied this at those 3 levels: the epic level, the feature level, or whatever sort of structure you use, and the user story level. So you might have minimal marketable feature. There's whatever that structure you've created, we can tie to that and provide bidirectional integration between those items. So we wanted to spend a bit of time on that. Now where I want to kind of jump to is my Enterprise Agile environment. And I'm just going to kind of reset this a little bit here. So this particular demo environment is all constructed around a pure sort of Enterprise Agile or a lean portfolio management approach. And so I have my strategic themes. So just like we showed in that other environment, I have some objectives and some key results underneath them. So these are my strategic themes. This one isn't quite as rich in terms of number of items, but we have stuff there as well. And when I jump over to my portfolio, I'm going to first look at it sort of fully expanded, and you could see a different structure this time. Now we have value streams, and underneath that projects, or in most cases, epics and features. But underneath that obviously would be user stories. We just didn't show that here. And that same integration, here's DevOps showing up, here's Jira. So bringing those worlds together into this particular structure, but also tying it to strategy. So what I want to do is just zoom in on my epics quickly, and you could see every one of them is tied to a strategic theme. So we know where they fit. They're also linked to teams. Some of them are tied to release trains. We have budgets. We have other information in there that we might want to know about them. I could group by the product. So in this environment, we've got a set of products set up that we're continuously investing in through these epics and through sprint planning and program increments. And so now I can quickly view how are we doing, how are these aligned, to the product components of it. Now, I'm going to flip my view here a couple of times. I'm going to go to PI summary. So now I can look at, we've defined in here my PI planning, my program increments, and we've defined them, they're quarterly, we'll ignore the year. And then we have various features showing up as to which program increment they've been assigned to, how they are progressing. And so that's that sort of continuous improvement, that constant investment into these different products through the use of program increments. And that's how we're going to organize and plan. Now, maybe lists are nice. They're good ways to look at things and organize stuff. I can obviously drill in very quickly, but I also can do this in a board view. And this is how a lot of this would traditionally get done. So I'm looking at those same program increments now, and I've shrunk this down just so you can see the cards. Well, obviously, you can expand them out and you can read more what's on them. But I'm looking at my different program increments. Now, in this particular example right now, the total value of each of these cards is exceeding the budget I set. I might need to set up a couple of more program increments and move stuff around, or perhaps increase the budget. But you can see I've got dependencies showing up, whether they are a dependency or a blocker in the case of the red lines. I understand where things are in each increment, and I can start to move stuff around. I could move this to here. I make this one a little bit better, I make that one a little bit worse in terms of budget, but I can start to move my items around. I also have a backlog of things that need to land into a program increment. So here, and remember, each of these items is tied back to strategy. So we understand as we make these decisions how we are impacting our strategy, what are the key things we need to get done in order to achieve the strategy, and as the strategy changes, I can reset these program increments, those sort of future ones. I could say, you know what, there's been a sea change in our industry, a major acquisition by a competitor, or of a competitor, I should say, or something's happened. Obviously in the last few years, we've had great examples like pandemics and so forth, where we've had to shift our business focus. Well, very quickly, using a PI planning board like this, I could start to move items out of a program increment back to the backlog and bring stuff in because of their linkage back to strategy. And I have that visibility here. So I can see all of this and how it fits together. I'm going to jump back to the other demo environment. I want to show sort of one final thing here quickly. I'm going to jump over to OnePlan, go to the portfolio, jump to the dashboard. Jim showed some of these reports sort of towards the end, and I wanted to highlight one of them. These are reports that we're working on as part of our report pack. Here, I grabbed an associated product. So I filtered on that particular product, and I can trace back what projects are touching that product, what programs are they in, where are they in their portfolios, and so forth. And so we're building out these different types of views, whether you want to see that in a tree map, and so forth, is what is the integration or the linkage between our strategy, our enterprise architecture, and our products, or projects rather, or initiatives. These reports would run in an enterprise agile environment, just like they'll run here in the adaptive one where I'm showing you this. So bringing it all together, we can tie into DevOps at a variety of levels to give you that richness of integration to manage your agile work, but also bring it into the portfolio, understand its linkage to strategy. We can define that strategy in OnePlan. We can also define your enterprise architecture in OnePlan, as I showed you. And then we can manage and adjust as the business evolves, as the strategy evolves, as things change, as the business must adapt to and respond to its environment. We have the tooling here and the information to help make those quick decisions and adjust where necessary, all the way through to the reporting and the visualization of that data as we make those decisions and see their impact and ramifications based on the portfolio. And with that, Jim, I think I'll bring it to a close.
All right, well, thanks for that great demo. Let's summarize what we talked about here today. You know, traditional PPM has only taken us so far, and it did provide significant advances for our organizations. But now strategic portfolio management, or SPM, is expanding on that and adapting for the modern digital business. And SPM is adding the dimensions of bringing together business capabilities, investments, programs, digital and physical products, applications, and projects, along with the strategic alignment that Paul was showing you here today. OnePlan has the flexibility and some even templates for a variety of capabilities and customer needs, and supports a variety of methodologies like waterfall, agile, and hybrids, as well as being able to model, as he showed you, for scaled agile approaches that you may be implementing within your organization. OnePlan provides the most complete set of SPM capabilities on the Microsoft platform. So if you're a Microsoft customer and are in the Microsoft cloud, we are built for that and are readily play in that and give you a good experience within that environment. And OnePlan also integrates with other solutions and tools. You know, we talked about integrating with things like Agile tools like Azure DevOps and Jira, but we also integrate with financial systems and other types of systems with our connector platform for OnePlan without having to do one-off custom connectors for your organization with a productized service. Now, we do these things because project and portfolio management is our passion and our focus. We do have a number of Microsoft Gold certifications, but we have been recognized by Microsoft for several years as their global Partner of the Year in Project and Portfolio Management, as well as other designations and finalists in things like Power Apps and Power Automate. We're also recognized by the analysts like Gartner and Infotech Group, et cetera, and are certified with Scaled Agile Inc. to do these things for the Agile folks as well. So this is where we live. We're not a general systems integrator. We have a particular focus and passion in this particular discipline. And we're here to help you to whatever degree you might want. You know, we not only just help with the technology, though we help some customers just stand up technology, but other folks want help on the people and process side of things to really embody this and make sure they get full adoption and benefit out of the implementations of these solutions. We do these webinars on a regular basis, almost weekly, and our next one will be on June 2nd, and a little bit of variation more on the Agile type of approach, but using lean portfolio management with Azure DevOps and OnePlan will be the focus specifically on that. So for those of you that are using Azure DevOps and want to use more lean portfolio management techniques, this would be a good one for you. And then on June 9th, we're doing extending Azure DevOps and Jira into an adaptive portfolio management solution where we may have a more hybrid type of situation. So we're excited to bring you those topics, and those tend to be very popular with folks out there because a lot of folks are trying to do these things. Go to oneplan.ai/webinars as well to either sign up for these, or we have a rich and extensive library of past webinars we've done that you can check out. You can try this stuff out. Up on Microsoft's App Source at appsource.com, you can actually pull down an Agile portfolio template or an adapted portfolio template trial with sample data in it so that you can navigate around in those things and actually get your hands on some of the things that Paul showed you here today. And we're happy to chaperone you in those trials to get the most out of them. So please engage with us. Also, for folks that are just curious about what it would take to get from where you're at into a solution like this, we do offer a free roadmap workshop where we can talk to you about your current use of solutions and tools, what your desired future state looks like, and what kind of requirements you have, and determine what the best method is to how to implement or migrate it, what the roadmap is for you. and what the total cost might be. You may own a bunch of the technology that's already needed for this, so it might only be an incremental investment on your part. So the free trials that we can support you on, the roadmap workshop, or if you're not even ready for all that, if you want to see a more deep dive demo, more aligned with your requirements, we're happy to schedule a free personalized one-on-one demo for you. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai, or if you just want to look more at us, just go to our website at www.oneplan.ai. There's a lot of resources out there for you. So I'd like to thank you on behalf of Paul and myself for taking time out of your valuable day. We appreciate your attendance and your interest. We are invested in success, and by that we mean in your success as our customer. We would love to engage with you, so don't be bashful about reaching out. You can either reach out to the general email that I gave earlier on, or feel free to reach out to Paul and I directly if you're so inclined. So OnePlan's goal here and its vision is to provide one interface, one experience for the users, and provide one plan to bring all these things together for you that we showed you here today. Thank you and have a great day.